Imagine a world where one man's whisper echoes louder than 1,000 screams, where love twists into chains, and silence becomes the deadliest weapon. This isn't just a story, it's the untold scream of history, clawing its way back to life, buckling you in because once you start, there's no escape from the shadows that bind souls in the forgotten corners of a brutal past, where the Hawthorne plantation sprawls like a living beast across 2,000 acres of Georgia clay in the 1850s. Cotton blooming white as surrender flags against blood-red sunset that bleed into the horizon like open wounds. But the earth beneath is stained dark with the sweat and tears of generations chained to its unforgiving soil, sucking the life from those who till it. And at its heart lurks Elias Hawthorne, a man of 52 with a face carved from cold granite and eyes like polished steel that pierce through flesh to the bone. Not born to this empire of agony, but clawed his way up from a modest farm where hunger gnawed at his belly like a feral dog, marrying into old money that he twisted into dominance, fertilized by fear and broken backs, rising every morning before the dawn cracks the sky in his opulent bedroom with its four-poster bed draped in blood-red velvet and imported rugs that muffle the screams from distant fields like a king's indifferent throne room. Dressing in crisp linen shirts stained with the invisible ink of cruelty, buttoning his vest with deliberate care as if sealing a pact with the devil himself, gazing into the cracked mirror at his silver hair streaked like lightning scar and sharp jaw clenched in perpetual rage, muttering through gritted teeth another day to come out, to crush the weak, descending the creaking stairs to breakfast where eggs fried in lard, bacon crisped to brittle shards, and coffee brewed black as midnight await, poured by the house servant Lena, who curtsies silently with trembling hands, her eyes averted to the floor where shadows pool like spilled blood, her back mapped with old whip scars hidden under ragged cloth. And his daughter Amelia joins him at the table, 22 years old with porcelain skin pale as a ghost's whisper, auburn hair cascading like dying autumn leaves tangled in thorns and eyes holding the ocean's stormy depth, but none of its wild freedom, trapped in a gaze that pleads for mercy, unspoken, murmuring good morning, father, in a voice fragile as cracked porcelain, to which he replies curtly, morning, eat quickly. Lessons await you like chains, their conversation sparse and suffocating, because he prefers the silence that underscores his absolute control. Every unspoken word a noose tightening around their necks, then stepping out onto the gravel path that crunches under his boots like brittle bones snapping. He patrols his lands not to till the cursed soil but to survey like a tyrannical king atop his hill of skulls, overseers tipping their sweat-soaked hats with whips coiled like loyal serpents ready to strike at his I am the enslaved over 150 men, women, and children shackled in body and soul, averting their gazes downward as if staring into the abyss of their own graves, body bending low from endless labor, and the crushing gravity of his presence that weighs heavier than iron fetters. Elias never shouting, because why waste breath when a single glance can freeze blood in veins and stop hearts mid-beat? Having learned in the forge of his own bitter youth that true power lies in the fear of the fist, rather than its bloody strike, quoting his own twisted gospel. In a voice like grinding gravel, obedience is the currency of survival, pay it or perish. To the town of Willow Creek he is a false benefactor, cloaked in benevolence, donating tainted coin to the church where hypocrites pray for his soul, hosting lavish balls where champagne flows like poisoned rivers and guests dance on floors polished with slave tears, lending money with smile, only to foreclose later with ruthless glee. The reverend calling him a man of God in sermon laced with lies while pocketing bribes. The mayor shaking his hand vigorously with palms slick from greed. But behind closed doors carved from ancient oaks he is a merciless calculator of human worth, weighing souls on scales tipped eternally in his favor toward damnation, his wife Eliza dying young in the throes of childbirth under a moonless sky. Some whispering that heartbreak took her fragile form, while others hiss that his coldness poisoned her from within. Ike venom seeping through veins. Either way he raised Amelia alone with servants who dared not cross him lest they taste the lash or worse. Amelia moving through the grand house like a ghost in silk gowns that whisper against polished floors, echoing with hollow loneliness, educated by tutors who drone on in monotones about skewed histories while she devours forbidden books, in secret under flickering candlelight tales of far-off lands where freedom isn't a myth, philosophy of liberty that clash violently with her caged reality like thunder against iron bars. But questioning her father aloud is suicide, a spark that would ignite the powder keg of his wrath. Down in the quarters where ramshackle cabins cluster like forgotten graves under thatched roofs, leaking rain and hope in equal measure, families huddling over meager cornmeal mush and field scrap, that taste of dirt and despair. Work stretching from can't see dawn to can't see dusk under a sun that blisters skin like hellfire. Among them Jeremiah, or Jem as the overseers bark in derision, his true name Kofi, stripped away on the auction block 15 years ago when he was torn from his West African village at 20 like a root yanked from sacred earth. Now 35, with broad shoulders forged in the anvil of toil and skin scarred from uncounted lashes that map out a constellation of pain, speaking little because words are weapons that backfire in the hell, working with mechanical precision to survive another day. His mind a fortress of buried memories, the rhythmic throb of tribal drums echoing in his dreams like a heartbeat from the grave. A mother's warm embrace that smells of earth and spices now lost forever. The stinging bite of chains on the middle passage where horror reigned in the stinking bowels of ships packed with bodies like rotting cargo. Death's stench clinging to every breath as comrades leaped into shark-infested waves, preferring oblivion to bondage. Arrival in Charleston a blur of humiliation, poked and prodded like livestock, bought by Elias for his brute strength that now aches with every bale lifted. Having lost his wife Ebie and unborn child in the chaos of capture, where her screams still haunt his nights like banshees, vowing survival not just for life, but for the sweet poison of revenge that simmers in his veins, observing everything with eyes sharp as daggers, the overseer's lazy afternoons drowned in whiskey, weak spots in the fences where thorns snag but freedom beckons. Growing murmurs among the young like embers in dry, tender survival. Not outright rebellion, but a grim endurance that sharpens like a blade in the dark. Yet lately the air hums with unrest thick as fog. Whispers of Nat Turner's revolt lingering like acrid smoke from a distant fire. Abolitionist pamphlets smuggled in bloodied hands, fueling dreams of chains shattered and masters fallen. Elias, sensing it as fear his empire's crumbling mortar begins to crack like brittle clay under pressure. One sweltering afternoon in H. His study walled with leather-bound ledgers that tally lives as mere assets to be expended. The fireplace crackling with flames that cast shadows dancing like mocking demons on the walls. Business souring with dipping cotton prices that bleed his coffers dry. Exhausted soil yielded less each harvest like a body drained of blood. Slacking workers he sees as exhausted husks but blames for his woes. Whispers of a runaway hanged from an oak tree inspiring copycat, like ghosts rising from graves, his jaw tightening like a vice needing to reassert control, not with public floggings that breed martyrs and fan flames, but something intimate and insidious, a poison injected into the heart. His gaze drifting to Amelia's portrait on the wall where she looks innocent and poised like a lamb unaware of the slaughter, the thought slithering in light, a serpent, a union, forcing her into a twisted marriage with a slave, not legal but a ceremony, to humiliate and degrade, breaking her porcelain spirit into shards, reminding the enslaved of their eternal place at the bottom of hell's hierarchy, tying fates in knots that choke the soul. No father should entertain such abomination, but Elias is a god in his own deranged mind, whispering necessity to himself as the word tastes like bitter ash on his tongue. The sun dipping low, turning the fields to deceptive gold, a cruel beauty that masks the underlying raw. Jeremiah, wiping sweat from his brow with muscles aching from hauling bales that weigh like sins. Overseer Harlan, the bull-necked brute with a face twisted in perpetual sneer, barking faster. Boy, mister. Hawthorne, don't pay for lazy bones that beg for the whip. Jeremiah nodding with head bowed, but rage simmering inside like a cauldron about to boil over, having seen too many broken. Like his friend Silas, lashed for a stolen glance at the sky, dreaming of flight. Old Mama Ruth worked to death in the sweltering kitchens, her body collapsing like a rag doll discarded that evening. Stars pricking the sky like distant escape routes, mocking their reach. Jeremiah gathering a small circle in the quarters with hushed voices that carry the weight of desperation. Young Toby whispering eagerly, They say up north, there's jobs and schools where black folks learn without fear. Jeremiah cautioning in a gravelly tone, words are wind, actions are chains that bind or break us, but dreaming too of running or fighting with fists raised against the night. Little knowing that Elias's shadow is lengthening like a noose over them all. Up the hill, Amelia pacing, her room with lace curtains billowing like unset sails caught in a storm of dread, her father's earlier summons lingering in her mind. Tomorrow, child, we discuss your future, his tone velvet over razor-sharp steel that cuts deep. Knowing suitors are mere alliances for power, but feel something off like a poison in the air. Befriending Lena in secret, who smuggles news of the world. Miss Amelia, the wind's changing, folks talking freedom in the shadows. Her heart racing like a trapped bird's wings against bars, trapped or complicit in this nightmare. Next morning, Elias acts with cold precision, summoning Jeremiah the walk to the big house. Eternal past fields where comrades avert eyes like condemned men. Up steps polished by unseen hands that bleed from scrubbing. Inside, the cool air scented with tobacco and privilege that chokes like smoke. Elias enthroned behind his desk, fingers steepled like a predator's claw. Jem, you've been loyal, a hard worker. I have a proposition, Jeremiah's pulse thundering in his ears. Propositions are traps in this world, Elias laying it out coldly. A union with Amelia, not love, but leverage. You'll live in the house. Father, my heir, prove your place among the damned. Jeremiah's mind reeling with horror and fury, not elevation, but degradation, a tool to break spirit. Bowing in compliance, but inside rebellion seeds, sprouting like weeds in cracked earth. Amelia called. Next, father, her voice, trembling eyes becoming voids of despair. Your duty, girl, marry the slave, bind the legacy in blood. The world shattering around her like glass, but why tears streaming like rivers of salt? Control the plantation, needs it to survive the coming storm. She fleeing to her room, sobs muffled into pillows, that smell of lavender but taste of bitterness. That night, slipping out in her first act of defiance, seeking Lena, help me understand this man, begging with eyes fierce and broken. Lena sharing suffering stories of whips and torn family bonds, forming in whispers that cut through the dark like knives. Down below, Jeremiah applauding, confiding in Toby, this ain't right, we run or rise before it consumes us. The quarters buzzing with quiet fire like embers waiting for wind. Days blurring into a haze of tension. Elias announcing the ceremony, a farce, in the chapel attended by overseers and select slaves as witnesses. The plantation humming with shock whispers, he's lost his mind this break. Everything we know. Elias smirking with lips curled in cruelty, fear renewed, underestimating the human spirit that refuses to die. Amelia confined to her room, wrestling demons in the mirror, books of Rousseau and pain fueling her fire. All men born free, she recites in secret meeting, with Lena learning of underground networks, Quakers aiding escapes through swamps and hidden trails we could run. Miss Lena urging hesitation to leave luxury for uncertainty, but the alternative, a forced bond, her body a pawn, igniting resolve, stealing glances at Jeremiah during forced preparation, seeing not a slave but a man with dignity stolen like breath, empathy blooming like a forbidden flower in barren soil. Jeremiah assigned lighter duties, using the time to map routes through treacherous swamps and rivers leading north. Allies growing, Toby scouting paths with youthful fire. Silas's widow, Clara disillusioned and fierce, I'll look the other way no more, for my Silas's ghost demands it, promising guilt etching her face like acid. An overseer, Finn the Irish immigrant, hating the system he serves. I'll look the other way, lads, a tone meant for the blood on my hands, his voice slurred with whiskey but eyes clear with regret. Silence breaking in speeches under moonlight. Jeremiah invoking African ancestors, we ain't property, we're fire, waiting to burn this hell down. Elias sensing the unrest like a wolf smelling blood. Patrols increasing with lanterns casting long shadows that devour the night. One night, confronting Amelia in her room, you'll obey or suffer like the rest. His response, a slap echoing through the house, her eyes defying him for the first time. Suffer like them, Father, I see your chains now. The ceremony approaching, storm clouds gathering, literal and metaphorical thunder rumbling like the gods. Anger guests assembling in the dim chapel. Jeremiah in borrowed finery that chafes like chains, metaphorical. Amelia in a white veil, hiding tears that burn like acid. The reverend bribed, stammering vows that taste like blasphemy. But then the twist, their eyes locking. In a nod signal, Toby and Clara surging forward, distracting overseers with shouts and shoves. Finn unlocking side doors, chaos erupting not in violence, but in flight, slaves scattering into the night, some fighting with improvised tools like hoes and sticks. Amelia, grabbing Jeremiah's hand, run with me into the unknown, fleeing into the night. Elias's roar chasing them like a beast unleashed. Pursuit through mud that sucks at feet like greedy hands, thorns tearing flesh on horseback. Rage blinding him. Traitors, I'll drag you back to hell, the forest swallowing them whole. Allies diverting paths with false trails. River's edge boat waiting hidden by underground railroad. Contact an old Quaker with eyes kind but hardened, whispering Godspeed. Children, the light awaits. Escape not. Clean paws, dogs baying like demons, lanterns piercing the dark like accusatory fingers. Jeremiah, Amelia, and their small group pushing north, days hiding in barns dank with hay and fear, aided by sympathizers who risk all, hunger gnawing at bellies like rats. Fear constant as a shadow bonds, deepening, sharing stories of Africa's vibrant life drum that called the stars down. He says, her confessing guilt. I was blind to the horror we all were. In our ways, romance not yet blooming, but trust first, like a fragile seed in poisoned ground. Back on the plantation, rebellion simmering, remaining slaves, sabotaging tools with quiet vengeance. Broken fields, untended like open wounds. Elias, cracking under the strain, public rants lashing. Innocence with whips that draw blood, town turning against him. He's mad, the hawthorn named poison. Church distancing with sermons on humility pointed like daggers. Pursuers closing in on the Virginia border. Ambush erupting, fight with fists and wits. Jeremiah wounded, saving Amelia, a bullet grazing his shoulder, blood hot and sticky. Confrontation raw. Elias, daughter, returned to your cage, her defiance. You're the slave to power, father. It devours you, a shot ringing out, not fatal. Elias falling from his horse, bolting into the night. Group reaching free soil, but scars lingering deep. Jeremiah joining the Union cause, foreshadowing the Civil Wars. Bloody dawn. Amelia advocating abolition with voice found in rallies. Elias ruined plantation seed by creditors, dying alone years later in a rented room. Whispers haunting him. Descendants meet in modern times. Voices no longer forgotten. But let's dive deeper into the emotional torrent that defined their lives, starting with Elias's childhood. Not as the tyrant he became, but as a boy on a dusty farm in rural Georgia. Father, a sharecropper, broken by debt. Mother, fading from illness. Young Elias vowing never to be weak, watching his parents bow to landlords like whip dogs. Learning early that power is taken, not given, with bloody hands. Running errands for the wealthy, absorbing their manners like a sponge, soaking up poison. Marrying Eliza, whose family owned land, but whose gentle spirit he crushed with demands her death, leaving him hollow, blaming the world, not himself. Raising Amelia with iron rules. You'll be strong or nothing, he snarled, but meaning you'll be mine to control forever. Amelia's early years filled with loneliness. No sibling, only dolls with glass eyes that stare back. Empty tutors drilling Latin and etiquette, but no affection. Father's rare praises, conditional. Good girl, now obey or feel my wrath. Sneaking to the quarters as a child, playing with servant kids. Laughter ringing like forbidden bells until caught and punished. They're not your equals, you fool, he thundered, but in those moments tasting freedom's sweetness, burying it deep like a secret grave. Growing into a woman whose beauty turned heads at balls, but heart yearned for more than arranged matches. Reading abolitionist tracts by candlelight, heart pounding at ideas of equality, questioning in silence. Is this all life? Is a cage of silk lined with thorns? Jeremiah's village life before. Capture vivid in nightmares. Huts of mud and thatch, community dances under stars. Learning to hunt and fish from father, mother's stories of ancestors strong and free. The raid coming, sudden slavery with guns, chains clanking. Village burning, wife Abia screaming as separated child unborn lost in chaos. Middle passage, ship bowels packed like cargo. Death stench, vomiting, chains chafing skin. Arriving broken but alive. Auction block poked, prodded, sold to Elias, vowing one day I'll be free or die in the attempt. Years of labor building strength, observing, learning English in secret from overheard conversations, forming bonds with others like Silas, who dreamed aloud one day we'll rise like the sun until lashed for it. Teaching Jeremiah caution but not quenching the fire that burns eternal. Lena, the house servant, bridge between worlds, born on plantation. Mother, a cook. Father, unknown, serving Elias since girlhood, seeing his cruelty up close. Once loved a field hand, whipped for looking at her, vowing never again, but helping Amelia with smuggled papers for the young ones. Miss, she said, eyes wise with pain. The decision night. Elias in stew, Die whiskey-burning throat portrait of Eliza accusing him this for the less he justified. The horror but sleep-evading dreams of revolt fire-consuming fields waking sweating mud act before they rise. Summoning Jeremiah details vivid room heavy with books scent of leather. Jeremiah standing head low but eyes flickering with hate, yes, so leaving with fury coiling. Like a snake ready to strike Amelia's confrontation words tumbling, "Father, this is sin against God." And man his response, cold sin is weakness, child locking her way but spirit stirring for time thinking I can fight this darkness. Secret note to Jeremiah via Lena, we must escape the abyss. His reply, together then into the light or death. Planning in shadows, Toby young, eager, I'll scout paths through the devil's swamp. Clara fierce, for my Silas's vengeance. Finn drunk, confessions came for better life. Found hell on earth, ceremony day, air, electric storm brewing. Chapel, dim candles, flickering guests, uneasy reverence, sweating. Do you interrupted shouts, distraction. Overseer scrambling, Jeremiah whispering now, flee grabbing Amelia's hand bolting. Rain starting, slick mud. Slipping thorns, tearing clothes, dogs howling, distant heart pounding. Keep going, she gasps. He pulls freedom ahead through the pain. Hiding in thicket, breath ragged. Why help me a hawthorn, she asks. Because no one deserves chains, not even you, he replies. Eyes meeting, spark of something new like light in endless night pursuit, relentless. Elias leading, whip in hand, I'll drag you back, rage fueling but forest confusing horse. Stumbling Eli's, Clara leading decoys, false trails. Toby setting traps with cunning, river cold. Water rushing, boat hidden by Quaker contact. Old man whispering Godspeed, crossing to safety. But Jeremiah shut in, shoulder blood soaking shirt. Amelia tearing dress, bandaging, hold on, don't leave me. Tears mixing rain, northbound days, blurring farms, sympathetic, hiding in haylofts. Food shared, store exchanged. Amelia learning of atrocities. How could I not see the blood on my hands? Jeremiah forgiving blindness is taught by the blind. Romance budding, tentative touches, shared glance. Under stars, what now in this free world, she asks. Live, free fight on, he says. Plantation chaos. Elias returning empty-handed, slaves defiant, work slow, sabotage. Fire small but telling town. Gossip, Hawthorne's lost at his mind, shattered creditors calling debts mounting. Church sermon on humility pointed at him alone in study bottle. Empty portraits mocking descent into madness. Whispers failed, all failed, dying, broken, no legacy. But ruin, free soil, Pennsylvania safe house. Amelia writing letters to abolitionist, voice found. Jeremiah healing, joining speakers, circuit tale, inspiring crowds. Marriage real. This time love not forced, children born free, carrying stored forward, descendants in modern day, tracing roots. Museum exhibit, voices recorded. Remember the shadows to cherish the light, but beware they creep back. But the emotional depth doesn't stop there. Let's expand on the inner turmoil of each character. Elias's nights plagued by ghosts. Eliza appearing in dreams. What have you done, monster? Justifying for power eternal but cracking facade, admitting in solitude I'm alone in this void. Amelia's transformation from fragile flower to fierce advocate. Doubts plaguing, am I worthy of this freedom? But actions proving yes. Skeeking at rallies, voice trembling, then strong. I was complicit, now I fight the darkness. Jeremiah's scars, not just physical nightmares of chains, but resolve steel. For my people lost, teaching children history. Know your strength in the face of horror. Lena's role pivotal, staying behind, organizing, remaining escapes. Caught once, lashed but surviving. Worth it for the light, she smiles. Later free, Toby's youth turning to manhood, escape hardening but hopeful. Marrying Clara, building life north. Finn redeeming, quitting system, aiding more runaway. Atonement for sins, he calls it. The chase scene in vivid detail. Rain pounding like war drum, feet splashing mud, branches whipping faces. Dogs closer barking, frenzy. Elias shouting, Amelia return, voice breaking, rare emotion. But she doesn't look back. Jeremiah carrying her over log fallen. River roaring ahead, plunge in cold shock, swimming strong strokes. Boat rocking steady, old Quaker pulling them in. You're safe from the beast, collapsing exhausted but alive. Weeks of trap, disguises, wagons, hidden compartments, close calls, patrols questioning but passing. Quaker network, seamless friends, they call each other code for allies in the shadows. Arrival in free state, overwhelming buildings, crowds, no whips. Amelia overwhelmed, this is freedom. This chaotic embrace. Jeremiah cautious, not full yet. The fight continues in blood. Elias's fall, detailed creditors seizing land, slaves freed by forced town, shunning him beggar in streets. One his dying in alley, whispering my empire gone, delusion to end. Epilogue, modern descendants. Amelia line meeting Jeremiah's at reunion, DNA-linked stories, shared tears, laughter from chains to family, unbroken voices echoing history's lesson. Power corrupts, but spirit endures through the darkest nights. And to flesh this out even more, let's delve into daily life on the plantation. Before the upheaval, morning's bell ringing at dawn, workers stumbling out, cold water splash faces, tools shouldered, fields endless, rows, cotton pricking fingers, blood mixing, dirt songs sung low, swing low, sweet chariot code for escape. Hope's overseers patrolling Harlan, cruelest enjoying power, small fiefdom lashing for sport, Elias overlooking from Hill House breakfast table reading, paper ignoring cries that pierce the air, Amelia's lessons tutor droning history skewed souths, glory divine but she questions silently later, an attic reading truth, heart racing, slavery evil, incarnate conflict growing, father noticing your distant girl, she lies tired from the wait, Jeremiah's work group camaraderie, jokes whispered to ease pain, Silas Beff. Orideth, one day brother rise, passing torch, evenings, quarters, fires, small store, told children, wide-eyed ancestors flew home across oceans, hope instilled despite despair, the twisted marriage idea, spreading shock, slaves murmuring blasphemy, from hell, overseers laughing, Hawthorne's sick joke, but Elias serious, planning details, dress for Amelia, shackles disguise as rings, Amelia's defiance building, stealing key, exploring house at night. Finding ledgers, horrify people as numbers to be crushed, vow, and this nightmare, Jeremiah, gathering supplies hidden, knife, food, dried, plotting with precision, night of ceremony, chaos, perfect cover, Lena risking all passing messages, be ready, miss the storm, comes heart pounding fear, but resolve ceremony, build up tension, palpable, Amelia, fitted in gown, tears staining fabric, mother help me from the grave, praying, Jeremiah, cleaned up suit, ill-fitting dignity intact, thinking, play along then strike, like lightning, guests arriving, uneasy murmurs, reverend arriving, bribe heavy in pocket, God, will twisted lying vows, starting dearly beloved, thunder crash sign, perhaps interruption, planned, Toby yelling, fire in the barns, diversion, overseers, rushing slaves fleeing, some staying, fire, tools as weapons, chaos, screams, but no blood, just escape, Amelia and Jeremiah's flight detailed, breath ragged left through the thorns, he directs swamp mud, sucking shoes lost, barefoot, thorn, bleeding but pushing, can't stop, the dogs, she pants, won't let them take, U.S. hiding, cave night, cold huddling for warmth, first touch, innocent, thank you for seeing me, she whispers for us. All he says, pursuers, Elias furious, find them, tear them apart. Dogs sniffing trail, but rain washing scent, allies, misleading tracks, river crossing, fear, water deep, current strong, hold me. Don't let go, she says, he does, pulling through, coughing on bankboat. Their miracle north journey, healing wounds, physical, emotional talks. Long my village alive with life, he describes, sounds beautiful, I'll see it in dreams, she says, encounters kind farmer, risking all hide here in the dark, food warm, first in days, gratitude overwhelming, arrival Philadelphia, crowds intimidating but freedom tangible, Amelia riding, dear Lena, come to the light, arranging more escapes, Jeremiah, speaking, I was slave, now free, join the fight against shadows, year, passing civil war brewing, Jeremiah, enlisting uniform, proud, Amelia nursing, wounded advocate, end chains forever, Elias's end, alone room rented, town whispers haunt, failed father tyrant, last breath, Amelia forgive, regret, unspoken descendants today, tech linking past museum to this, my great ancestor, pride, swelling stories told, podcast viral, forgotten voices scream, again inspiring change, but to reach the depths, let's explore alternative paths not taken. If Amelia obeyed, broken spirit, child born mixed, scorned, Jeremiah resentful, rebellion delayed, but inevitable, exploding later, or if caught, recapture, punishment severe, but spirit unburrow. Ken underground, continuing the emotional flow, a river of pain, hope twisting together, powers, corruption, humanity's resilience theme, eternal sensory details, vivid cotton, soft but pricking heat, sun, blistering cold nights, shivering rain, soothing then drowning mud, sticky thorn, sharp blood, warm freedom's taste, sweet air, clean north dialogues, rich Elias's commands, cold, obey or perish, Amelia's please father, see the light, Jeremiah's wisdom, patience, key to breaking chains, Lena's encouragement. You strong, misfight, Toby's enthusiasm. Let's go into the unknown, Finn's regret, sorry for my part in hell, Quaker's blessing, peace be with you in darkness, building to endless words through layered narratives, backstories, subplots like Silas's widow, Clara's revenge arc, setting small fires, distraction, her own escape. later joining Group North, or Harlan the Overseer's chase zealous catch him drag him back but falling in swamp drown. Fate ironic town mayor's involvement once friend turning back too far Elias your lost church. Reverend's guilt confessing I sinned enabling evil aiding abolitionists after Amelia's advocacy detailed speeches crowds booing then applauding daughter of slaver now liberator from Shadows headline Jeremiah's Union service battles described fear gunshots comrades falling but victory sweet for my child unborn thinking of future their marriage quiet ceremony friends witnessing vows true in freedom eternal kiss tender children raised stories no your roots deep in pain education prized modern tie and descendant activist history repeats if forgotten beware the whispers rally chanting expanding subscenes Elias youth hardship father dying dead Elias vowing I'll own it all no matter the cost for land by ruthless Eliza's courtship charming then controlling wedding grand but joy absent Amelia's birth joy brief Eliza fading take care her my love last words Elias ignoring grief work Jeremiah's capture vivid gun smoke screams chains heavy ship rolling waves despair suicide sea arrival auction humiliation plantation routines detailed holidays mock cheer gifts meager but hope sparked unrest building pamphlets read hidden freedom possible now debates whispered risk worth it death or chains decisions ripple slaves inspired if gem can why not us all ceremony disruption detailed punches thrown overseers overpower but spared no killers we seekers of light flight groups splitting some caught other free Amelia Jeremiah's bond growing laughs shared remember when we fled healing Elias decline health failing mind wandering hallucinations Eliza forgive me ghost but no death unnoticed body found days later buried pauper legacy none but lessons learned voice forgotten no more script ending echo hook whispers louder than screams silence weapon but also shield revolution born quiet enduring powerful through the ages